We are now streaming.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening and welcome to City Hall. We are calling this meeting to order at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Good evening, Mayor Williams,
I'm here.
Mayor Pro Tem Middleton,
I'm here.
Councilmember Baker,
Here.
Councilmember Caballero,
Here.
Councilmember Cook,
Here.
Councilmember Freeman,
Present.
and Councilmember Rist.
Here.
Awesome. We'll now have a moment of silence. Thank you. Now I'll pass it over to Councilmember Freeman for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. It's our practice to stand to salute the flag and say the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll seal that order. All right, we have a few ceremonial items tonight. We'll start with Councilmember Baker.
If I can call up Jackson Britt, please. It's my pleasure to present a proclamation for Cleft and Craniofacial Awareness Week. Whereas orophacial cleft are the most frequently occurring birth differences in the United States, affecting about 1 in 700 infants per year. And whereas infants born with clefts and other craniofacial conditions usually require surgery as well as specialized feeding support, dental and orthodontic care, speech therapy, hearing intervention, and social and emotional support as they grow and develop, this complexity of services need to be provided in a synchronized manner over a period of years and are best provided by interdisciplinary cleft and craniofacial teams. And whereas organizations such as the Cleft Palate Foundation and the American Cleft Palate and Craniofacial Association serve populations affected by craniofacial differences and the professionals who care for them in order to help infants have a healthy start to life by providing their families with comprehensive information, support and connections to these interdisciplinary teams. And whereas it is fitting and proper to recognize the efforts of organizations and programs such as the Cleft and Craniofacial Program at Duke University and its families working to ensure a better life for those affected by cleft lip and palate and other craniofacial conditions. And now, therefore, I, Leonardo Williams, Mayor of the City of Durham, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim July 2024 as Cleft and Craniofacial Awareness Week in Durham and recommend its observance to all citizens. Witness my hand in the corporate seal of the City of Durham, North Carolina, the 17th day of June, 2024.
All right, just want to say hi out there to all my family, my friend, and of course, my dog, Daisy.
What was your dog's name again? Cool. Tell him we say hi, all right? Yeah, step to the mic. You can read your speech.
Thank you, Mayor Williams. Hello, everyone. My name is Jackson Britt. I am 11 years old and was born with a unilateral cleft lip and palate. I'm honored to receive the proclamation to promote cleft and craniofacial awareness on behalf of the Duke Cleft and Craniofacial Center. Every 2 hours, a child is born in the U.S. with a cleft lip and or palate, making it one of the most common of all birth defects. A cleft condition can be isolated or occur as part of an inherent disease or syndrome. The different types can affect facial development or appearance and cognitive development. It can even affect vision, hearing, breathing, and speech. Kids with cleft and craniofacial differences face hardships as they grow up. They undergo multiple operations throughout their childhood and undergo extensive therapeutic treatment. They miss school and may struggle with educational, social, or physical challenges. These differences may lead kids to feel isolated. Despite how common cleft and craniofacial conditions are, the care and challenges we face are not general knowledge by those affected. That is why promoting awareness is so important. I started going to the Duke team before I was even born. My parents met them and made a treatment plan. The majority of my visits were before I was a year old. Most of them I don't even remember, but I have seen pictures. My family made weekly visits to Durham while I wore a mouthpiece called a NAM that helped bring the two sides of my cleft together. I had 2 operations as a baby. The first one corrected my cleft lip at 4 months old, and the second corrected my cleft palate at 11 months old. The Duke team provided me with the resources and guidance needed to set me up for success, including assistance in learning to eat, speech therapy, and making sure my hearing was excellent. I have thankfully only needed 1 more operation when I was 7, and they moved some bone from my hip to my gum. And now my checkups are every other year, and I get to skip school. Yes! My favorite memory is when my team gave me a teddy bear with a cleft scar just like mine. I named him Lotso, straight out of Toy Story. I was like 5, I had nothing better to name him. The Duke Cleft and Craniofacial team strives to provide each child with the confidence and ability to realize his or her full potential. I have always thought of my cleft as something that makes me special. It's pretty cool to be part of the cleft community. The doctors and staff on my Duke team have been a part of my life for 11 years and now feel like family. They helped me to make me the strong, independent person I am today. I will be forever thankful for my forever smile. It has been an honor to represent them today. Thank you for the opportunity to raise awareness about cleft and craniofacial differences. Despite our challenges, every child with a cleft or craniofacial difference can grow up to accomplish their dreams. They just need the right team behind them. Thank you.
Young sir, you are one of the best public speakers I have ever met. Great job.
Good evening,
Councilmember
everyone.
Caballero.
Oh, Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Williams. Good evening, everyone. I'm honored to read the proclamation for Durham Refugee Day. If Coco Nayo could come up, and then anyone else who's with him. Whereas Durham Refugee Day was launched in 2017 to celebrate the courage, strength, and determination of refugees and immigrants living in Durham City, and whereas more than 108.4 million people are forcibly displaced worldwide by the end of 2023 as a result of persecution, conflict, violence, human rights violations, or events seriously disturbing public order. And whereas the United States and Durham have a proud humanitarian tradition since the late 1970s of welcoming refugees and immigrants of all nationalities and religions, and whereas the Durham community knows that inclusion, respect, and understanding of all those that work, play, worship, and live here promotes a community that we can be proud of. Now, therefore, I, Leonardo Williams, Mayor of the City of Durham, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim June 29th, 2024 as Durham Refugee Day in Durham, and hereby urge all its residents to take note of this observance. Witness my hand and the corporate seal of the City of Durham, North Carolina, this 6th day of June, 2024.
Are you? Yeah. It's our job. All right. Well, Jackson, congratulations. You are a great speaker. I don't think I can do what you did, all right? All right. Mayor William, City Council members, it is a great pleasure being here tonight, receiving this proclamation on behalf of refugees and immigrants who call Durham home. This proclamation is similar to birthday or anniversary gift that we keep getting every year, and this has been like the 5th one. And when you have a kid that is 5 years old, that means you are really taking care of your kids. And immigrants and refugees who call Durham home, you are taking care of them very, very well. And with this, I would like to invite you to join us on June 29th at the Durham Central Park to celebrate Durham Refugee Day. Thank you.
All right, so I have the honor of having a few guests here tonight, and this is a really big deal. It's called the Bull City Little League Mayor's Cup softball and baseball winners. So these are the champions of the world right here in Durham. The Mayor's World Cup. All right, so I would like to recognize them, and I'm going to ask each of you to meet me in front of the dais. And council members, if you all don't mind, could we all take a picture from the dais? We'll take a picture with you all. Yeah, let's come down. You know you're good when the trophy is the size of you. Ready? All right, full speed arms. Woo! Awesome. Now let's get all the champions. All right, ladies. Champions. You guys stand over here. All right, let's give it up for our champions. The best part about the job.
Absolutely, without question.
Absolutely. All right. I'll wait till the door closes. All right, so we're going to get to our announcements. I'm really excited about tonight, and the room looks really different than last year. So I feel really good. Just lots of communication, and we're going to get to it. So I'll acknowledge Councilmember Cook for announcements.
All right, good evening. Thanks to everyone who's here, everyone who's watching online. Mayor, if it's okay, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege. My partner proposed to me since our last meeting, so I am officially engaged.
Stand up, stand up,
Thank
stand
you.
up.
And so he's here. I do want to recognize him just quickly. I guess he's known he wanted to propose for several months, but could not find time with my schedule and his, so we are a little bit behind. But despite having 3 jobs at the time and a foster dog that was definitely my idea, when I started this job and throughout the time that I've been sitting on this council, my partner has stayed up late nights to help me prepare, help me research. He's helped me process when I've gotten home at the wee hours of Tuesday morning after our long Monday night meetings. This job is really tough. I couldn't have done it without him, so thank you, Mike, for being my rock. Okay, on to actual announcements for council-related things. So, a few things that I had the pleasure of doing in the last couple of weeks. The first was that we kicked off Juneteenth celebrations. I was at Bragtown and Merrick-Moore communities at Lakeview this past Saturday. It was so hot, but despite that, we danced and had a great time. I'm really grateful for the leadership in that community that has made that celebration into a very sought-after yearly event. So thank you for hosting us, Bragtown and Merrick-Moore, and I'm looking forward to many more years of Juneteenth celebrations. The second thing that I got to do this past couple of weeks was that I went on a tour of the 911 call center. I was so impressed with everyone I met. I feel like this is a group of first responders that doesn't get talked about as often as some of our others, but they are often the first point of contact when you have an emergency and you dial 911. You're talking to somebody who is staffing for a 12-hour shift, sitting in front of a computer, knowing where your call is coming from, coordinating where you need to, what kind of support you need, where it needs to go. And I was just so impressed with everyone I met, and I want to say a special shout out to the other Chelsea, I'm going to call her, who let me put on a headset and listen as she took calls for about an hour. Just a great experience for me, really got a lot of useful information, and also was just so impressed. I'm always impressed with our city staff, but was so impressed with the ability to take on that trauma, process it quickly, and do the things that need to be done. The third thing I got to do was a tour of El Futuro. This is a nonprofit, if you're not familiar with their work. They sit in Lakewood. They provide mental health services for the Latinx community here in Durham and some across the city, or across the state, excuse me, all the way from kids up through adults. I was really, really blown away by that visit. I've had clients who've interacted there, and I know other people who've interacted there, but I had never actually been inside. I was met with some really brilliant staff, doctors, community leaders, and the space is so beautifully set up. So I'm really grateful for that. It was a real pillar in our community. And then I just want to talk a little bit about what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to say more about this when it comes up, but I think that there's been a lot going on in the news the past couple of weeks, and I think it's time to have a serious conversation about what we do on this council. So I'm 5 months in, and I have had the opportunity to build relationships with people, to start digging in on policymaking, but we really get to impact this city in two very specific ways. The first is what we're doing tonight, the budget, right? We get to pass this every single year. And in this budget, we get to say what it is we prioritize in Durham, what we want to support financially moving forward. It's not perfect, of course. I'm sure many of us wish that we had unlimited dollars to fund all of the things that we wanted to fund. But you will see our priorities reflected in this budget tonight. My priority, one of my main priorities coming in was living wages. And I do think that this budget, though it doesn't get as far as I'd like it to get in terms of pay, it does get us closer to that, I think, ideal Durham and ideal pay. So that is one way that we shape our city. The other big way that we shape our city is that almost every meeting we make zoning decisions. We are tasked with looking at applications for land redesignation, whether it just be a change in how much density someone wants in the city or an annexation with or without a change from the county often into the city. These things are seemingly small. They come up frequently, but unlike the budget, we don't get to revisit them year after year. They're binding, right? This is something that we grant and we can't take it back. You might have seen some news regarding a decision that we made a few weeks back, a 200-acre area in Southeast Durham that we rezoned or allowed to be rezoned to single-family dense development in an environmentally sensitive area. I didn't approve that project for reasons I'm not going to rehash here. Of course, you're welcome to look into that meeting a few weeks ago. But it felt like a big one because it felt sort of like the culmination of what I've been seeing coming before this board and these dense residential urban sprawl style developments in Southeast Durham. You might have seen too that since that time, at the next Planning Commission meeting, one of our planning commissioners resigned. He cited several reasons for his resignation. One of them was that he experienced a lack of respect and what he said might even go so far as to be denigration by this council. Now, if you know me, you have heard me talk before about intention versus impact and how you can have the best intentions all day long, but if your impact is a negative one, then your intention does not matter. I'm sure there's going to be lots of reasons and intention given why certain things were said or how certain attitudes have been. But to me, there's no excuse that a member of a volunteer board that requires so much time and careful study was made to feel not respected, not only as an expert in his field, but also just as a person in our community. He's not the only one that has voiced that concern. Since that time, we've heard from several other commissioners. I don't think that there's any excuse for that. And at the end of the day, we've lost a really valuable voice from our Planning Commission. So I just want to say to Commissioner Cease that I've never met you in person, but I have watched hours and hours and hours of these commission meetings, and I've learned so much from your comments, both watching them and reading them after the fact. And I want to thank you for your service thus far. Another issue that Commissioner cited was this council's seeming disregard for the comprehensive plan. For those of you unfamiliar with what our comprehensive plan is, it's not binding. It's a guiding document. It's a reflection of hundreds of hours of community input and staff expertise and work to put together a goal for the city that takes into account growth in a way that's intentional and respectful of the environment and of neighbors and of the people that live here already. This comprehensive plan passed not that long ago, just this past October, on the consent agenda. So it wasn't a thing that was highly contested. But we are choosing up here again and again to disregard that plan. And the reasons given are many. I believe they're misguided. But unfortunately, most of the time, these decisions are somewhat invisible because they are happening at 11 p.m., 12 p.m., 1 in the morning on Monday nights, when, frankly, most of us should be in bed if we are not already in bed. And I think that that's something that needs to be acknowledged because it is happening, these decisions are binding, and we're making them regularly. So I look forward to supporting this budget tonight. I think it moves us closer to where we want to be as a city, to where we want to go, to the plans that we've heard the community voice. I hope that in the future, we can make choices in our regular meetings to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Baker.
Thank you. Really appreciate those comments. I didn't know what you were going to say today, but I thought that those were incredibly thoughtful. I support everything you said. Ditto. I also wasn't going to share that I also got engaged since our last council meeting. I promise we didn't coordinate that, and it's just contagious or something. We sit right next to each other. So yeah, thank you for everything that you said, Chelsea, Councilmember Cook. I thought that was very thoughtful. Just one thing I want to say is there's a heat wave coming across the country. It's hitting a lot of places harder than it is hitting here, but we're feeling the effects of it. Obviously, it's tied. It's unusually hot, and we're going to see more and more of that. We're going to see more of that this summer. So I just wanted to say, take care of yourselves and take care of your neighbors. Check in on your neighbors, especially elderly neighbors. And Manager Page, I hope that we can coordinate with the county this summer to make sure that we are providing cooling centers with the county and communicating the locations out to the public about those locations. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Councilmember Caballero.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to shout out my intern who's in the crowd, Elias Jimenez Mata. It's the first intern I've ever hired, and it's been a really great experience. He's a rising senior in political science at NC State. Go Wolfpack. And I think many of us on this dais have hired interns from a variety of universities with a variety of backgrounds, and it is a way to kind of pay it forward and teach another generation and hopefully instill a love of local government and potentially go work for your city government, go work for your municipal government. It's a really good job. You get to do a lot of impact in your local community and implement that public policy or come up with really innovative ideas and help your community be better. So I just want to say thank you to him and for his service. And then I also just want to, again, remind folks, Durham Refugee Day is coming up. It is probably one of my favorite events of the year, even when it's hot. I will say that right now, immigrants and refugees across the globe are facing more and more precarious existence, while many countries with affluence and resources shut their doors, even though they are often the reason that those regions of the world are seeing impacts of climate change and warfare because of colonial practices and hegemony is what we see in Latin America. That is often perpetrated by the United States that we all, every single one of us, pay for every day with our federal taxes. So again, I just want to invite folks out. It is, I think it's June 29th from 3 to 6 p.m. at Durham Central Park. Thank you.
Councilmember Freeman.
Good evening. Thank you. I want to wish everyone a very belated Happy Father's Day. And I do want to echo Councilmember Cook's commentary and just call in to the room. I think there's a very big push around civility and how that operates in our community, and I want to make sure that we uplift, finding a way to hear people without, hear people and communicating with people in a way that does address policy or issues and not the person or their integrity. And I do want to thank Commissioner Cease for his time and service. I do know how long the nights are on that planning commission and how much work goes into listening to many, many, many members of the community. And I just want to make sure that I say I appreciate all of our commissioners on the planning commission and those who are on our boards and committees across the city and the county. It's a volunteer position and many are not paid a stipend or what have you. And it's just a lot to take in. And then I just wanted to take a point of personal privilege. I didn't get engaged, but I have been married for a very long time. I do want to congratulate both Councilmember Cook and Baker on their impending marriages and just say that marriage is, what's the words I want to say? I want to be really intentional. But it's a big step, and it takes a lot of care and a lot of time. And I'll leave it at that. I will also add that this evening I am happy to shout out my son and daughter who are celebrating their birthday and looking forward to getting right back to the celebrating because this is going to be a very quick meeting. But before I conclude, I did want to share that I had a really intensive set of meetings over the last week with the National League of Cities in the summer leadership conference for the advisory for Federal Transportation Infrastructure Committee. And I do want to say I had the very distinct pleasure to tour the California State Transportation Department, and now I'm ready to see the North Carolina State Transportation Department's I never would have thought to tour that, but I think it's important to see how the work gets done and how those plans get put together and just how we can move forward together. I am mindful that there were lots of stories and concerns raised from across the country around infrastructure, and just knowing that I would love to hear from folks in the community if you have any stories or thoughts around some of the things that we might want to uplift here in Durham as we're pushing for the legislative agenda for the federal government in the fall. And so I do want to put it out there to let folks know to reach out to me, to myself, with the council to make sure that I have as much information as possible, so that I'm not leaving anything off the table. I know that whether it's air, rail, or the highways, whether it's sidewalks or crosswalks, bike lanes, all of the things. It is all funded by our tax dollars, and we've got to figure out a better way to do this. I want to say that rail comes to mind in a real way, and there's just so much to cover, and I'm looking forward to taking that on this fall. I also want to say, I know that there was a student who was featured on the Drew Barrymore show, and she's from here in Durham, and I just wanted to congratulate the young lady. I can't call her name right now, but I did want to make sure that I let other folks know to go check out that episode, because Durham is well represented with the chemistry and cooking aspects of how this young lady, I think it's called Cooking Princess, but that being said, I think we have a great future ahead of us with all the children in our community, and we want to find ways to support them. I did have a chance to visit there's been so many things, but the one was to serve as a judge for the cooking course for the students at both Southern and Hillside, and I want to shout out the winners of the competition, but they were all winners. And I will say that the food was very good, and I want to let everyone know that if you need a food judge, I'm here. I'm ready. I will taste. And that is all. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Councilmember Rist.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Manager, colleagues, residents here and those online. First of all, I want to say I'm so excited about Durham Refugee Day. I look forward to seeing you all on the 29th. It's going to be a great event. Glad that the refugee community is well represented here tonight. Just got a couple of comments. I do also want to join my colleagues in wishing folks a happy Juneteenth, actually a day early officially, right? As Councilmember Cook said, it was great to be part of the celebration last Saturday in Bragtown at Lakeview Park, a great event there, and love seeing everybody there. I also want to say a special thank you to the leaders and residents in PAC-2. They invited me to come last week to speak about the city budget that we'll be talking about tonight and hopefully approving. So just want to let you know that the leadership in PAC-2 is strong. The discussion was great, and we can be proud of the work they're doing in PAC-2. Also last week, I had the privilege of attending the annual breakfast of Housing for New Hope. They also have great leadership, and they are a first-class partner for the city in addressing housing and homelessness. And they did at that meeting share their point-in-time count. I just want to remind the community from that point-in-time count back in January that they counted then, this may be an undercount, but they counted then in January, 405 people experiencing homelessness in Durham. That's an 8% increase over last year. 170 families experiencing homelessness. That is a 31% increase since last year. Part of that is due to the fact that there's been a 30% increase in fair market rent since 2020 in our community. So people are struggling to find affordable housing. I know in this council we debate issues about development and about other issues. Housing is one of them. It's one of the crises we face in Durham. Having more housing, affordable and other forms of housing, will help to serve that market and will help people to have less trouble finding affordable housing. So it's a critical issue for us here at the council. I look forward to working with my colleagues on that issue. The last two things I'll say is that, I guess the last thing I'll say, hope you all enjoyed a happy Father's Day. I did want to say that it's with a heavy heart I want to recognize the two men who can fairly be considered fathers of Durham passed away this past weekend. The first person is Richard Morgan, the well-known owner of Morgan Imports, who is absolutely one of the innovators and one of the leaders in the revitalization of downtown Durham with his business, with his presence in Durham, with his amazing, generous presence, and being a founder of Downtown Durham Incorporated. So we will very much miss Richard Morgan and his creativity and his craft as an entrepreneur in Durham. Second person is Dan Hill, who I think many folks will remember as an amazing, legendary community leader, a businessman, and also a member of this council for one term back in the, I think that would be back in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. Dan Hill and I did not always agree on policy, but he was a amazing council member who was who knew the facts, who worked hard at his job, had a deep commitment to Durham, and is a wonderful person. He's also been involved more recently in the Durham Sports Commission, was, I think, the founder of Swing Pals. So Dan's been an amazing influence in this community and a great factor. We'll miss him greatly. We'll miss both men greatly. And hope you join me in reaching out and sending our wishes and prayers to the family of Dan Hill and Richard Morgan. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, colleagues. Good evening, everyone in chamber and watching on platform. Let me also hasten to extend my congratulations to both council members Nate Baker and Chelsea Cook as well. Their impending nuptials. We're all very excited. We love cake, so we're excited about your upcoming weddings. Congratulations and blessings on both of you and your households that you'll establish. Mr. Mayor, thanks so much for some really great proclamations tonight. Just a wonderful evening of proclamations, joyous time in the chamber. It was good to be here to witness those. Just two quick announcements. First, I want to shout out and thank Durham Beyond Policing, who actually Councilmember Baker and I were at a community forum at W.D. Hill Recreation Center last week before last, that was sponsored by Durham Beyond Policing, where we had some pretty frank and good conversation about the state of our city, and I'm grateful to them for their invitation. I also want to begin the celebration of Juneteenth. Mr. Mayor, you and I were at the White House last week to begin the celebration of Juneteenth on Monday evening, June 10th. And unfortunately, as all too often happens, our phone started buzzing because there was a shooting here in our city. And a young person, a very, very young person, was struck in a drive-by shooting yet again in our city. We do a lot of things as a council, but there's no higher or more sacred responsibility of a government than to keep our residents, our citizens, our neighbors safe and alive. Parks, schools, free buses, everything else doesn't matter if there's no heartbeat to populate those places. It should be our number one concern and number one consideration. So on tonight, as we begin Juneteenth, our observation of Juneteenth, I want to begin it with a sober remembrance of those whose families have been torn apart, our municipal family that keeps being torn apart. Above all else, well, perhaps next to other things, this should be our number one issue as a government and as leaders in this city. It should be our number one issue. We're a great city, and deliberative bodies, surprise, surprise, sometimes disagree. Sometimes we vote the same way, sometimes we don't. It ain't personal, it's democracy, and it's a deliberative body. But what we should all be in agreement on is that the ultimate measure of the greatness of our city will not be how tall our buildings are, no matter what lists we make, no matter how cool we are. The ultimate measure will be, how do we do by the most vulnerable who live amongst us? Our most vulnerable residents and citizens. Are they protected? Are they cherished? Are they uplifted? We've got some work to do, Durham. We've got some work to do. My heart and my thoughts are with that family tonight, but as a policymaker, aside from just praying and thinking about folk, as a policymaker, I invite us to redouble our efforts to do everything we can as a government to put every tool on the table that comports with our values. Not stop and frisk, not roving SWAT teams, every tool that comports with our values on the table to end this scourge which keeps eating away at the fabric of our city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And colleagues, thank you all. Councilmember Cook, Baker, congratulations. When I got engaged, I was really excited. And when I got married, you know, just just lifing together, I thought, wow, I wish I hadn't waited so long, but timing is our timing. So congratulations to you all as you start. Although you've been together with your partners, it's going to be different now. It's going to be different, and it's going to get better. And this life is about to get really sweet. It's pretty dope, the life together. So congrats to you all. As Mayor Pro Tem stated, last Monday around this time, just for the record, don't drive a Tesla to on a long distance trip. I rented a Tesla because I like the way they drive, and they're much cheaper than regular cars now. But don't take a long distance trip. I couldn't fly to DC, so I had to drive, and we had to charge twice. So if you're driving an electric car, once you get on the highway and you go higher in speed, the range that is advertised is not accurate anymore. Reduce it by 100. So by the time we finally got to DC, I went into a policy meeting, policy briefing, and just really got a wealth of information on what the current administration, the Biden administration, is doing for our communities. This is not an endorsement because we can't do that on this dais. However, I appreciate the billions that are invested in our community and was able to learn about those. And I hope that we can continue that type of support from Washington, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a bit. After we did go, we were invited to a concert, which was really fun. Got a chance to, see the Vice President dance. That was cool. Kurt Franklin really is short and energetic, but fun. Left there and I came back, had a joint city-county meeting. Don't drive to D.C., party at the White House and then drive back. Not a good idea. Got back in Durham at 6:30 that morning because I had to keep stopping to charge the car. So no sleep, and I went to the Housing for New Hope breakfast with some of the colleagues here, and then went to the joint city-county meeting, then a few other meetings. Finally went to sleep around 6 o'clock that evening. I'm just telling you this because it's what you should not do. But Wednesday, Durham, I represented our city in Charlotte with the Vice President, just talking about small business investment, where she kicked off. This is the same tour that she kicked off right here in Durham. So just making sure that we remain present. And I'm spending a lot of time with our federal level because just what I've learned is when there's funding available, when there's funding available and they send out an official notice in coming weeks, if you're there most of the time, they'll let you know, like pull you to the side. Hey, I'm just letting you know in another week, we're about to announce this funding opportunity, so get ready. And usually when you're on top of it, you apply early, your application is strong, you send out a letter of support, you have your federal delegation to send letters of support or walk over to the office. It gives you that extra nudge, and we have been nailing these grants. So we want to keep on bringing those resources home to Durham because it really does help out a lot. We recently received a grant for electric charge stations and Justice 40 tracks. Well, guess what? It was a little nod to say, hey, go ahead and apply for the other half of it. So that's going to happen. So there's a lot happening this week. Really excited about it. It is Juneteenth month. Happy Juneteenth tomorrow officially. It is Pride Month. But something we don't talk about a lot is mental health for men. And I want to highlight that, especially Black men. It is just as one. It's from my lens and what I see happening in our world, in our society today. It worries me a bit, actually a lot. So I want to uplift that and tell my brothers that I love you. Men, I love you, and I stand with you. And I think we should say that more often. I also want to, again, congratulate NCCU on their new chancellor. You will be meeting her soon in City Hall when we come back. But Dr. Carrie Dixon, I said publicly and privately, if we did not go internally, if the chancellor at Elizabeth City State University applied, I really hope that we choose her because I saw what she did out there, and My uncle and my family in Elizabeth City are pretty upset because they hate to have lost her, but it's Durham's gain, and she is phenomenal. Look forward to our growing partnership with NCCU. Councilmember Baker, you mentioned cooling centers. Madam Manager and I talked about it today. The emergency management services are ready to go. But what usually happens when it gets really hot outside, we all retreat indoors or we turn the AC down to its lowest point. So just so you know, what's happening is the grid was not meant for everyone to go full throttle at the same time. That is how it shuts down. And we don't want to lose power. So while it is hot outside, we want to make sure that we can have some activities for folks to actually be at. We will have cooling centers. We do have plans in place for our actual city team, city employees. They have mechanisms that they can follow, plans that they can follow. Madam Manager's office is all over it. And you may see me on the news just giving out tips, helping folks weather this heat, because the humidity is going to be real with it. So it's going to be a rough summer. As I close here, I had the honor of, speaking of Refugee Day, which I hope to be there as well, I'll be leaving the dentist right before, so just cross your fingers that I can get there. I had the honor of hosting the Guatemalan consul in the consulate here in City Hall, and I'm just amazed at the resources, you know, and the amount of people that are being served. And I'm really grateful for the relationship we have and the partnership, and I look forward to building it even more. But also right before that, I had the honor of hosting the mayor of Monrovia, the largest city in Liberia, and excited about starting the process of establishing a sister city with Monrovia. They came here, we met, we had a great time, we shared resources, we visited the Heart office because he said, hey, I want to look at options of emergency response that, you know, you don't have to have a gun. I said, oh, we're doing that. So I took him to the Heart office and met the staff, and it was a great visit. And then also something that's really pivotal out there that's really needed is solid waste management. Waste management. And so we went out to our waste management facilities and saw how it worked. And, you know, and just the president of Liberia will be coming here, I think in August. So hopefully we'll get a visit here in Durham and continue to show our resources and just share information for starters. And then, you know, really identify private philanthropy that can help invest in some of our developing countries that are in need of that support. As I close here, two final things. This week, I will fly out to Kansas City for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And I'm really excited about this one because my first conference was in Washington, and I was the newbie, and I just walked around and meeting everyone. Everyone knew Durham, no one knew who I was. That's now changed because I'm very prideful about our city. So this Friday, I'll have a press conference in Kansas City with Secretary Pete Buttigieg, and we'll be talking about the transportation infrastructure investments that have happened in our region and in our city. So Durham will be chosen to be highlighted with the Secretary. I'll then leave the room and go over across the hall to a panel discussion where I will talk about our continuum of care network and how we are addressing homelessness in Durham. I know we are critical a lot of ourselves in Durham, but when you go across this country, you know, there are a lot of people that are looking at Durham as the model city. And it's okay that we're critical of ourselves because our standards are so high. But when our standards are that high, that just means that we are doing we're probably doing better than a lot of people because we're always fighting toward perfection. And it really helps us just stand out. So I look forward to representing us at the press conference and also on the panel. Lastly, yes, we had some news where Planning Commissioner Tony Cease resigned. I have a great deal of respect for Tony. I'm not going to talk about Tony because the information he's provided us, just the guidance, the knowledge is invaluable. However, I don't think this is about Tony. I think that, we have people come on board to resign all the time. But I think that the fact that we've made this a news story, it tells me where our attention is. And, there is no one, we have different views about development, but there's no one on this council that wants to harm any communities. There's no one on this council that wants to disrespect anyone. There's no one on this council that wants to degrade anyone. And I think, what's been frustrating to me as mayor of the city is this has been a news story where we've talked all around it and no one's talked to one another. So I haven't gone on the news to talk about it because I plan to go to Tony's house and talk to him myself, or we grab coffee, but we are making this about, we're making it about a person, when what we all are trying to do is we're trying to serve our community, and I just hate that we're talking about it around one another, not to each other. So my comments to about Commissioner F.A.C.T.S will be to Mr. F.A.C.T.S and not in the media. It is unfortunate. There are cases that come before us all the time. We agree on them sometimes, and sometimes we don't. And there are always two sides to a coin. And I made it very clear. And where I stand, and I'll even welcome, last year when I was on council, I bought the, and I appreciate Mayor O'Neill obliging on this, I requested that the Planning Commission and the City Council get together, because there was a lot of talking at each other and around through YouTube, but not to one another. We got in person and no one said anything. So this time, I want to do it again. This time, I will, Council, I'm going to ask one of you to join me in a small preliminary conversation with two planning commissioners so that we can better facilitate it. And we're going to do it again, because I do believe we need to communicate with one another. This is really, really serious work that we're doing. But there is a lot of misguiding of information out there. And I hope that you'll read beyond the headlines and actually read context and follow context. I've even had scary videos, scary political videos made of me, and totally out of context. So no one on this council is trying to harm our community. We're doing the best we can with our interpretation of what we have before us, and I'm sure that those will continue. They're always, sometimes we get what we want, sometimes we don't. But do know that, the Planning Commission is an advisory board. They inform us of, the bigger picture that we have to decide upon. It's not a board that dictates the council's final say-so. We carry that responsibility, that weight. I wish I could get some things. Hell, the city council was shut down for a ceasefire in the Middle East. I've said this before, and that is very important. We have to have that too. But we have kids in Durham dying every day, and I haven't seen the same people. So I don't want to make that political, but it is a fact. There are things that we get and some things we don't get. So let's not talk at each other. Let's not talk around each other. We can communicate and make sure we work together, because there's a lot of things that are working in our community and there are a lot of things that are not. And I believe in communication. And that's not to offend anyone. It's just being honest. All right? And that's the luxury I have about being in this seat. I sleep well at night because I say what needs to be said. So with that being said, let's get to our work. And thank you all for being here. All right. I would now entertain the priority items by Madam Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the Durham City Council. I have a few priority items for you this evening. Agenda item number 16, Fiscal Year 2024-25 Budget and 25-30 Capital Improvement Plan, CIP Ordinance, and other related ordinances. Information requested during the June 6, 2024 Council Work Session has been attached. Agenda item number 18, Contract Amendment number 2 with Moss and Ross, LLC, for communications consulting services. The information requested during the June 6th, 2024 City Council Work Session has been attached. And finally, Citizens Matter, Orange Street Waste and Recycling, information requested during the June 6th, 2024 City Council Work Session is attached under priority items by the city manager, city attorney, and city clerk. That is all I have for you this evening.
Thank you, Madam Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Williams. It's good to see you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. The city attorney's office has no priority items this evening.
Thank you. Just a point of order here, Madam Clerk, Madam Attorney, I have these, no, never mind. We have the two items, item number 8 and 10. We had them on GBA, so we'll just pass those as when we go through, right? Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
You have one pulled item off consent, which is item number 16 and 19. You have a card for 19. These are people resources, but you have a card for 19.
Okay. Number 19. All right. Madam Clerk.
Good evening, Mayor Williams, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, and members of council. The city clerk's office has 2 priority items for your consideration. The first is agenda item number 8. That's the Durham City County Environmental Affairs Board. The additional information requested during the June 6, 2024 City Council work session was updated on the memo. The chair of the DCC EAB, Jennifer Kerrigan, confirmed miscommunication between herself and one of the nominees. EAB now recommends Jonathan Chan and Sandra Howell for the vacant seats. The second is agenda item number 10, the Durham Homeless Services Advisory Committee. The additional information requested during the June 6, 2024 City Council work session has been updated on the memo. Council requested applicants select categories for this item. The categories have been updated to reflect selections on your ballot. Both items have received majority vote for nominations. Nominations should be included in the motions this evening. I can either announce the nominations now or when the items are being reviewed.
Thank you very much. We will pass those when we get to them. So I'll read the consent agenda, then come back and identify them. All right, thank you. I'll now read the consent agenda. Need some elevator music or something. It's quiet. All right, number 1, Durham Board of Adjustments, mayoral appointment. Number 2, Human Relations Commission appointments. Number 3, Durham Open Space and Trails Commission, mayoral appointment. Number 4, Carolina Theater Board of Trustees appointment. Number 5, Durham Open Space and Trails Commission appointment. Number 7, Durham Workers' Rights Commission appointment. Number 9, Racial Equity Commission appointment. Number 10, Durham Cultural Advisory Board appointments. Number 12, Participatory Budgeting Steering Committee appointments. Did I say 12?
You said 10.
You said 10.
Oh, 10 is I'm sorry. Yeah, 10 is missing. Number 11, Durham Cultural Advisory Board appointments. Number 12, Participatory Budgeting Steering Committee appointments. Number 13, approval of city county minutes. City council minutes. What did I say? Yeah, gosh. Number 14, contract agreement with the St. Joseph's Historic Foundation Incorporated to provide funding to support core programming, facility rental, salaries, benefits, and contractor services. Number 15, contract agreement with the Museum of Durham History to provide funding to support museum operations. Number 16, fiscal year 2024-2025, budget and 2025-2030 capital improvement plan, CIP ordinance, and other related ordinances. It's been pulled. Number 17, contract with El Centro Hispanio to provide salary and operating support. Number 18, contract amendment number 2 with Moss and Ross LLC for communications consulting services. Number 19, contract amendment with Corporate F.A.C.T.S for technical assistance on an affordable housing project. That has been pulled. Number 20, First Amendment to the contract with Volunteers of America to the Carolinas Incorporated for the provision of coordinated entry with diversion services. Number I don't have it. It's a resource.
Did somebody call 19? He has a card. He has a card.
Yeah. Number 22, American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, revised commitment letter to Bradley Housing Developers, LLC, for the Sandy Ridge Station project. 23, resolution providing approval of a multifamily housing facility to be a portion of the lofts at Southside and the financing thereof with multifamily housing revenue bonds. Number 24, First Amendment to the Geotechnical Engineering Services contract with ECS Southeast LLC for the Durham Station Transit Center Improvements Project. Number 25, United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, Forest Service Inflation Reduction Act, Urban and Community Forestry Grant. Number 26, United States Department of Agriculture, USDA Forest Service Inflation Reduction Act, Urban and Community Forestry Grant Subrecipient Grant Agreement with Keep Durham Beautiful Incorporated. Number 27, Third Amendment to sublease with Duke University Health System Incorporated and sublease agreement with Lincoln Community Health Center Incorporated at the Holton Center. Number 28, the Durham Rail Trail Project Design Update and Professional Services Contract Amendment with John R. McAdams Company Incorporated. Number 29, Old Chapel Hill Road Park Field Replacement Project Purchase Contract with Field Turf USA Incorporated. Number 30, amendments to the City of Durham classification and compensation plans. Number 31, contract with Rebuilding Together of the Triangle for Neighborhood Preservation Program. Number 32, Fiscal Year 2024-2025 agreement to fund economic development programs and services operated by Downtown Durham, Inc., using City of Durham funds.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull that for purposes of recusal.
Got it? Do you?
EDI board.
Yeah. Number 33, contract amendment number 4 with Downtown Durham, Inc. for fiscal year 2024-25 city services and programs for the Downtown Durham Municipal Service District.
Pulling that for purposes of recusal, Mr. Mayor.
Number 34, contract for pre-employment polygraph examinations of police applicants. Number 35, contract amendment 3 to the professional engineering services contract with Hazen and Sawyer PC for the East Durham Water and Sewer Rehabilitation and Belt Street Regional Stormwater Improvements Project, phases 2 and 3. Number 36, amendment 1 to professional services contract number 18853 with Schnabel Engineering South PC for design of Little River Dam settlement and seepage improvements. Number 39, U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration Airport Improvement Program grant offer. Number 40, U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration Airport Improvement Program grant offer. Number 41, American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA project subrecipient grant agreement with Affordable Community Residents Association for the Fitz-Powell Affordable Housing Project. Number 42, on-call executive recruitment services list. And we had to address number 8, Durham City County Environmental Affairs Board appointments. And number 10, Durham Homeless Services Advisory Committee appointments. And we have our 2024 General Obligation Bond Referendum, which is also has been pulled. It's a public hearing, I'm sorry. With signups. 16, 19, 32, 30.
The exception of these four.
All right, I'll now I'll now entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda with the exception of items 16, 19, 32, and 33.
So move.
Second.
Mayor, could I ask for just a point of clarification?
Yep.
I think that the last one on our citizens pulling one might be number 18. If it doesn't have a number assigned to it, but it says that they're representing Moss and Ross, which I believe is,
It's a resource.
it's different. Okay.
Yeah, it's a resource.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, can you restate what we pulled again?
So with items, I'm entertaining a motion at this time with the exception of items 16, 19, 32, and 33.
Okay.
Got it? Madam Clerk, will you please open the vote?
Was there a second?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was a, who seconded
Mayor Pro
that?
Tem moved it. Did someone second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, can you please open the vote? Please close the vote.
And the
Thank
motion
you.
passes unanimously.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll go down to item number 16.
GBA, item number 8.
I'm sorry, well,
You'll do your GBA first. You do your pulled items last.
Pulled items go last.
all right.
Item number 8.
There you go. Number 8.
I thought it was in the,
Item number 8.
all right. Colleagues, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to appoint residents to fill 2 vacancies on the Durham City County Environmental Affairs Board representing at large with the terms to expire on June 30th, 2027. This is item number 8.
Point of order, we need to know who.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Was that your point of order? Thank you.
I apologize. I was trying to get your attention. Yes. So the motion should read to appoint Sandra Howell and Jonathan Chan were the majority nomination vote for item number 8, representing at-large residents.
Thank you.
Do you need a motion for that? So moved.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded. Madam Clerk, please open the vote. Please close the vote. Thank you.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 10, to appoint residents to fill 2 vacancies on the Durham Homeless Services Advisory Committee with 1 representing the faith community and with 1 representing former homeless persons with the terms to expire on June 30th, 2027.
So the nominations for this board, majority vote was received for Dorothy A. Harden, representing Faith Community, and for Tiffany Solomon, representing formerly homeless person.
Colleagues, I'll entertain a motion. It's been moved and
Second.
seconded. Madam Clerk, please open the vote. Please close the vote.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So colleagues, I'm going to knock out the others real quick so we can end on the main item here. Item number 16, we'll go ahead and address that. Was that it? No, it was 32 and 33. What was 16 and 19?
16 and 19 were pulled by residents.
Okay. All right, so we're going to go out of order a little bit here because these are really simple. Mayor Pro Tem, you pulled items 32 and 33 for recusal. You can state your
Absolutely, Mayor. Just very quickly, Madam Clerk, I will not be participating in these votes in accordance with general statutes governing participation on boards. I sit on the DDI board, so I won't be participating in 2032 or 33. Given official notice. Thank you.
This has been recorded and will be recorded in the vote.
All right, I'll go ahead and entertain.
Mr. Mayor, just point of clarification. So I'm on the DDI board as well. I mean, should I also?
Ooh, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. We're still fine.
We're good, okay.
Right. So,
Councilmember Rist, if you could just announce for the clerk that you are recusing for the same reason.
Announce for the clerk?
Just
Yeah.
announce for the record.
Yeah, I'm going to announce for the record, Madam Clerk, that I will be recusing myself for the same reason as my colleague, Councilmember Middleton.
This will be recorded in the vote as well and reflected.
all right, I just wanted to, for the record, this is North Carolina General Statute 14-234-3, in which what we're referring to here, just for the record.
Okay.
All right, so colleagues, I'll now entertain a motion to authorize the city manager to execute the fiscal year 2024-2025 contract with Downtown Durham, Inc. to operate economic development programs and services in an amount not to exceed $170,048.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Madam Clerk, please open the vote. This is item 32. Please close the vote.
And the motion passes unanimously with Mayor Pro Tem Middleton and Councilmember Rist recusing themselves from this vote.
All right, thank you. And item 33 would be for the same reasons. So therefore, I'll entertain a motion to, do you need them to state it on the record for the item too, or? Yes, go ahead.
Mayor Pro Tem Middleton clarified that it was item 32 and 33. I didn't hear Councilmember Rist clarify.
Correct. Yes, Madam Clerk, it was 32 and 33. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Everything for the record. I will now entertain a motion to authorize the city manager to execute a contract amendment with Downtown Durham, Inc., DDI, to provide services and programs within the Downtown Durham Municipal Service District in the amount of $1,663,700 for the total contract amount not to exceed $6,092,200 for fiscal year 2024-2025, subject to City Council budget authorization.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. Madam Clerk, please open the vote. Please close.
And the motion passes unanimously with Mayor Pro Tem Middleton and Councilmember Rist recusing themselves from this vote.
Go to the public hearing.
All right, colleagues, again, it's only one sign up for each of these items, so I don't want folks having to wait around if they don't have an interest, so I'll go ahead and entertain 16 and 19 as well. Item number 16, I have an online speaker. Mr. Langley, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the Durham City Council, Manager Page. First, I would like to thank you all for your diligent work on this budget. I know that you all had some tough decisions to make, and you all had some deliberate conversations. I want to again raise something that our police chief said during one of you all's sessions, where she said, we recognize that our kids and some of the most affected are not exposed to a world that shows them they can be better and be in a better place than they currently are. They will turn around and potentially be our next victims or grow up to offend in our society. And that was particularly interesting because this weekend I ended up going down a rabbit hole looking at a student that I met 2 years ago. I kept reaching out to this young man. He was interested in football, and I was trying to get him to consider and explore some other options just in case football did not work out. Well, fast forward 2 years from graduating from Hillside High School, and now he's charged with a murder that occurred in Mooresville. And so it took me to another comment that our police chief most recently said, which was urging parents to keep their children in things that are constructive, things that are impactful. And as you all are fully aware, we just had a manufacturing company relocate to Durham offering salaries of jobs of $128,000 a year. In some research, I found that Durham has the highest of all 100 counties in the state, the highest average annual private sector salary in the state of $90,727. As Frederick Douglass once said, it is far easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Rather than us trying to pry guns out of the hands of folks, let's do what we can to disincentivize them picking up guns in the first place by providing meaningful, impactful, and intentional services that help our residents, particularly our youth, explore, develop the skills, and connect with the growing opportunities in this community. I realize it is too late to get funding through this budget, but I will continue to reach out to you, each one of you, in an effort to get support so that we can see better outcomes, particularly for our boys and young men of color. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Langley. Colleagues, that was 16. No, that was 19, right? No, that was 16. Do I have to read all of that?
No, no. So if you're ready to call the vote, you could just say, I'll entertain a motion and read this sentence and add like as printed in the agenda or as indicated in the printed agenda.
Okay.
You don't have to read all the paragraphs.
Wow, good. All right, colleagues, no. This is a lot.
He's going to pay for your faces. I want you to read it all.
Colleagues, at this time, I Oh, here we go. Yeah. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget and 2025-2030 capital improvement plan CIP ordinance and other related ordinances.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded.
Mayor, could we say a couple words?
Say again?
Could we say, I thought we had to move and then spoke and then vote. Do we say words after we vote?
I mean, it will be now in the motion. Now.
Can I just say a couple of quick
Discussion? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Thank you. I just want to say that, and y'all heard me talk about it earlier, that I do think that this budget gets us on the way of where we want to go. I want to acknowledge that many city employees have come to us asking to be made whole. And at the end of the day, I think we have done a really excellent job of addressing almost all of those concerns. But I do just want to say that I have a little bit of heartache over, I don't feel that our sanitation workers all feel that they were made whole in this budget. I think it's a great budget, and I think it's going in the right direction, but I'm excited to see us continue to push for that department and also to have a really meaningful conversation of what it means to have a living wage in this city and how we calculate that moving forward. So those are my only comments. Thank you, Manager, for an excellent budget and for making my first budget season only have one public comment. Incredible. Thank you so much.
Are there any other comments?
I would just say I would like to call into the room former Mayor O'Neill and former Councilmember Hyman and the work that we were set into motion last year to do, and just appreciate that we're here now and actually doing the heavy lift of paying those workers that we value. And I think Councilmember Cook highlighted that. I feel as well that our sanitation workers in the design phase of things, we've got to do a better job at designing the study so that it actually reflects our values. That's all. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yep. Go ahead. Baker, are you good?
Sure. Appreciate, I want to thank the city manager for her work on this. I second some of the comments of Councilmember Cook. I don't think this budget reflects the budget that any individual up here would have created, but I do think that it does a phenomenal job of taking a lot of complicated views up here and creating one single document that reflects the values of all of us. And so I want to acknowledge that that's an incredibly challenging job, and this budget does raise property taxes, and it does so for a very, very good reason that many people have come forward and requested. And so there are some things, it's not exactly the budget that I would have created. It's not the budget I think that any individual would have created, but I do think that it reflects the budget that accurately reflects this council. So thanks for all the work that you and your office has done in putting this together.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, colleagues, for a really, really great, challenging, I think, history-making budget process. I want to honor every voice on this dais that brought passion and concerns to this process. We didn't all get everything we wanted, but it's been said oftentimes that, a budget is really a statement of morality. It's a value statement. And I want to congratulate you, Madam Manager, and your staff and the Finance Department for giving us a document that if we weren't in the room to defend and folk read it, they'd know some things about Durham. They'd know about our commitment to Vision Zero. They'd know about our commitment to our immigrant community. There's money in this budget for brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ community to assist them in getting name changes. There's $10 million, alas, for the Fayetteville Street corridor. Durham will now be one of a few American cities that has made a significant, much like the Marshall Plan after World War II, significant contribution towards addressing historic disinvestment. There's money in here for guaranteed income, our commitment to guaranteed income in this budget. There's money in here that significantly raises our employee salaries, which will, after a little bit of research, once again put Durham at the top of the heap in terms of compensation in a number of areas amongst our peer cities. That's also going to put a bullseye on us, so the arms race will continue. I fully expect our sister cities to look at this budget and try and outdo us, and then we'll come back again and take a look. But when all is said and done, with all of the pulling and pushing, with all of the give and take, this is a budget, I think, Madam Manager, that we can be proud of. And it is a budget for a year. The conversation continues. The push continues. The give and take continues. That's the beauty of our city and beauty of our democracy. It is a never-ending conversation. Never a period, never an exclamation point, always a comma to be continued. I'm very proud to cast a vote for this budget. I'm going to thank my colleagues, and to Councilmember Freeman's point, present and past, who have poured into this budget and who have reshaped and recontoured our city to look more like who we are and to bring us closer to being a better city. So I look forward to voting for this budget. Congratulations, Madam Manager, and to your entire team. I know the entire city is grateful to you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure, Mr. Mayor. I'll just say, joining my new colleagues on the City Council, Councilmembers Baker and Cook, this is my first budget. I also can't thank the manager and her staff enough for the amazing job they've done. There's a lot of input you will receive from the council members, from the community. In addition to the comments that my colleague, Council Middleton, shared, I'm also excited that we continue fare-free buses in Durham. It's a big win in the budget. Staff salaries was the biggest objective coming into this budget season, and we have addressed that. I join my colleague, Councilmember Middleton, in being really excited about $1 million for guaranteed income. It's another big win in the budget. It's a win for the citizens of Durham. We've heard what you've said about our community, what our needs are, and we've tried to respond. And so I'm excited to vote for this budget. And I couldn't be more excited as my first budget as a council member to pass this budget. So thank you all.
Councilmember Caballero?
I just really want to vote. My joke is I think I probably say the least up here. This is my 7th budget. I think this is also Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Freeman's 7th budget. We're the old people up here. Season. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. This is definitely the hardest budget, except maybe the year that COVID hit, not because that budget was hard, just because that year was just very unknown. We didn't know what to anticipate. ARPA had not passed. We didn't know what the federal government was going to do, so there was a lot of angst, quite frankly, of what was going to happen to our city. And I just want to congratulate, I wanted to wait until we voted because I wanted to make sure it was unanimous before I opened my mouth. This was a really, really hard budget, and every single one of us should be proud of ourselves. We should be very proud of our staff. This was a challenging year. We knew sales tax wasn't going to come in as high as it's been coming in. We knew that our city workers deserved big increases, and we knew that that was going to be a tax increase. We started broadcasting that last year when we passed a very contentious budget last year, a budget that was a 4-3 vote. So I just want to say thank you to my colleagues. We've done a really good job. I think we've done a really excellent job listening to one another. To Councilmember Cook's point earlier in her comments at the beginning, I think the reason this budget is so excellent is because we took the time to have conversations with each other consistently throughout the process. All of us did. And so if we want things to be different, if we're upset about other votes or we're upset about how other things have gone, I think that that's the map forward. If you want something to be different, you want to understand how a colleague's voting, maybe you're not going to agree. But if you don't do the work to have the conversation and really figure out where's the consensus point, and you're not always going to get your way. That is being an adult. An adult means you're not going to get your way. I have 3 kids, I say it all the time. Welcome to adulting. Adulting means compromise. Adulting means knowing when you're not going to get your way and when you're just going to have to be okay with not getting your way and, getting up the next day and doing the work again. And that is what we are elected to do in these seats. We are elected to get up every day and try our best for this city, and sometimes we're going to fall flat on our faces, and that doesn't matter because the next day we got to get up and do it again. And I know that every single person who works for this city, not just those of us who are elected, they do that too. They get up every day and they serve this community. And they're going to get a big old fat paycheck increase in July, and they've deserved it. And I know that that costs residents. I know it's a property tax increase. All of us live in the city of Durham. We're all going to face that same tax increase as residents. So thank you again to staff. This is an incredible budget and a really, really hard one. So it's not lost on me what this is going to cost residents on their property tax bill. But I'm proud of us, and I'm proud of this thing that we're about to vote for unanimously. And I'm looking at Councilmember Freeman when I say that. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. I got to say, last year it was about 200 people in this room and in the lobby, and it was screaming and shouting, and it was very contentious. But I reiterate the words I said earlier and what Councilmember Caballero just stated. Communication is key. We just have to communicate with one another. I got a haircut today, and while I was in the barber chair, I was on the phone with Councilmember Cook. I was like, yep, that's what the buzzing noise was. I was just, we don't always agree, and I mean, sometimes I leave this dais, I am fuming. But after a glass of bourbon and some time, I wake up the next morning and I'm fine. Okay, scratch that from the record. Water, yeah. It's not. This is not an easy job, And we hear folks call in. You should see some of the emails we get, and the way folks talk to us. You know, I get in trouble sometimes because if I just have a moment to respond and I'm a little bored, I do it when I shouldn't. But, you know, this is a very hard job, and I've said that over and over again. But I just really appreciate doing this work with you all on this dais. We are a mixed bag of thoughts, beliefs, ideals, and yet we come together. You know, this budget, I think Councilmember Baker said it, it's not the ideal budget that any one of us individually would have created. Mayor Pro Tem stated a lot of the highlights in it. I am still, you know, I'm still not happy with the fact that, you know, I don't feel that we're responding to the resident survey of more public safety, you know, and what that looks like. You know, it was the #1 resident response, and I don't think we addressed it at all. You know, we found ways not to. I don't want to get in all I don't want to relitigate anything, but it's just not perfect. But there are a lot. It definitely the positives outweigh the negatives in this budget by far. And while it's not going to be perfect, you know, I didn't get everything I wanted. But I got enough that makes me feel good about where we are. And I also want you all to keep in mind that, you know, the county, they had to raise taxes too. You know, they 3.5 cents last year, 4.6 cents this year. I kept that in mind as well, knowing that we haven't raised taxes since 2019. So this was a hard decision to make. You know, not everybody got everything they wanted or requested, but I also want to say, and this hasn't been said, but I want to thank the groups who've come, the organizing groups who've come and asked on behalf of just the general public and wanting more funding for something that's going to be a general public good. Like guaranteed income, we put $1 million in the budget for it, but it was being requested an additional $200,000. But I mean, the fact that they said, okay, look, we understand what you all are saying. We understand the budget is tight. We'll take the win. We'll take this at, you know, $1 million. At least we'll still be able to help some families. You know, I appreciate everyone compromising. And it makes me feel good that as mayor, this is my first budget as mayor, and I hope we have a unanimous budget tonight. But guys, it's not perfect, but it's definitely better than, you know, better than what it could have been. So yes, taxes are going to go up. It's going to go up because we value our employees. You know, and that is still 2,700 employees out of 300,000 people. So we're sending a signal where we stand as a government, and hopefully others will follow suit. You know, we talk about the design of the positions. Well, this class income did not address design. So we're not going to be able to redesign positions, but we did do the pay study, the market study, and I'm glad to say that we're giving our employees a significant raise. So, colleagues, I'm grateful for each of you. We don't always agree, but I'm glad to do this with you. All right. So with that being said, can't believe that this doesn't even feel right, but it is. I've already called it's been moved and properly seconded, so I'm now calling for the question. Madam Clerk, will you please open the vote? And everyone vote yes. All right, please close the vote. It's never taken this long to come on the screen. You see?
And the motion passes unanimously.
The City of Durham has passed its budget. All right, you can all go on vacation now. Not yet? All right. Number 19. Congratulations, budget team. Madam Manager, congratulations to all of you all. Wow. For what you guys have been through as a team. You know, I know I need to move on with the agenda, but I'm going to take a moment and ask you all to stand. It has not been easy over the last year and a half. It has not been easy. Thank you for, Madam Director, picking up the helm and keeping on going. And to your team, thank you all for just working with all of us complicated people sometimes. Madam Manager, what leadership. Wow. Thank you. All right, and your team. All right, item number 19. Excuse absence for the rest of the meeting, right? Guys, this is what we work up to all year. Yeah, you're ready. Ready for you. We're on item number 19. All right.
Good evening.
Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Tim. Everyone, Regina Mays, Durham resident. I'm gonna make this quick. Excuse my clothing today. I've been in these Durham streets, and this leads me to why I see the purpose, no matter how long I have to stay here, to speak about such items like number 19. And when it comes to funding, particularly when it involves public housing and RAD properties. I know that might be a challenge of what is being asked of the city manager to keep accountability. I do understand that there is a lot of complexities coming through with the different funding coming through, such as the C&I grant and different things of that nature. All I can think about what comes to mind right now, after I have been in this community today, is hurting people. I have taken pictures today of residents' homes that still have bullets or evidence of bullets that is still sitting in their windows, their doors, with duct tape over it. Wooden boards. Just this past weekend, I had my third neighbor move out and opt to live with relatives because her car has been hit by bullets 2 times to where she can't even get car insurance if she continues to use that address. And so when I think about this item number, I know it's saying in the name of the whole development process. For me, I don't know if that's the correct thing, but it stands out from the breaking of ground of what that structure is going to look like and how it's designed to service the residents that will live there. But I just want to highlight, if you don't have the residents or the tenants, then you don't have happy investors. I'm worn out tonight. I really am. And I haven't been this way in a long time. But my heart is heavy. And just to know in my own community, 3 residents that did not feel like management or anybody heard their voices of trying to live in a safe environment. One resident, she gave me her key and packed up anything that can fit in a relative's car and went back to New Jersey. It was the second time her daughter's bedroom window had been hit by a bullet. No management, nobody reached out to this resident. Thank you.
Thank you. So colleagues, I'll now entertain a motion to authorize the city manager to execute a contract amendment with Corporate F.A.C.T.S Incorporated to increase the contract total to an amount not to exceed $170,016 and to extend the contract term through June 30th, 2025 to provide technical assistance on an affordable housing project.
Move as read.
Second.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded.
Discussion.
Discussion.
I did want to just follow up. I appreciate Ms. Mays coming in today. I did ask the question from Community Development if they had any way to actually like just to highlight exactly how accountability will work in this contract and with other contractors who are providing resident services for our communities.
Greetings, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, Reginald Johnson, Director of Community Development Department. Now, this contract provides technical assistance on the advice of on home funding, as we discussed at the work session. It provides work consultation to the the Community Development Department and how we process and be in compliance with using home investment partnership funds. That's the purpose to the agreement. The comments that were made this time, as well as the previous time, have been forwarded and shared with the Housing Authority. I know that they are following up on those comments that were made at the last meeting. In terms of accountability, this contract focuses on the Community Development Department being responsible and accountable for the $8 million of funds that we are putting into the Commerce Street project.
Thank you. I think it's helpful to give a timeline. I guess it would be great to know when you expect to hear back from Durham Housing Authority regarding those questions as well. You may not have those answers tonight, but it would be great to have that information before the end of the fiscal year.
It will be before the end of the fiscal year. Actually, it'll be this week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, the motion has been read. First motion. Madam Clerk, please open the vote. Please close the vote.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And the second motion, to authorize the city manager to execute any and all documents and instruments necessary, reasonable, and appropriate to carry out the purpose and intent of this contract amendment.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Madam Clerk, please open the vote. Please close the vote.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And lastly, to authorize the city, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the city manager to make necessary and sundry changes to the contract amendment so long as the changes do not increase the financial obligations of the city and the changes taken as a whole are not less favorable to the city.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Madam Clerk, please open the vote. Sounds like Keith wrote that. Please close the vote.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, number 38, we have some speakers signed up as well. This is a public hearing.
You have some online as well.
Oh, yeah, two right here. All right, we will, we're now on item number 38, 2024 General Obligation Bond Referendum, and we will receive the report.
Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members, my name is John Reese. I am the debt administrator within the Finance Department. The purpose of this public hearing is for the 2024 General Obligation Bond Referendum, which is financing for General Capital Improvement Program projects. The public hearing is required by state statute, and all notifications have been made and are on file for review. The key points to be made are, if adopted, this referendum requires voter approval on November 5th, 2024. The proposed referendum consists of two bond orders totaling $200 million. The first bond order is $85 million for parks, of which $43 million is for the former Wheels Fun Park and $42 million for East End Long Meadow Parks. Bond order number 2 is $115 million for streets and sidewalks, of which $60 million is for new sidewalks, $30 million for supplemental street paving, $15 for supplemental sidewalk repairs, and $10 million for unpaved roads. All debt activities of this type and size require state approval, and we have submitted applications to the Local Government Commission back on May 31st. Following the public hearing, other actions requiring approval are adopting the first bond order issuing $85 million in general obligation park and recreation bonds, adopting a bond order authorizing the issuance of $115 million in general obligation street and sidewalk bonds. And 3, adopting a resolution setting a special bond referendum for November 5th, 2024. Appreciate your consideration and welcome any questions you may have.
All right, you've heard the staff report. Colleagues, are there any questions before we officially open the public hearing? If none, I will now declare this public hearing open. And I do have some speakers online. I'll start there. Let's see. Danielle Doman. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name's Danielle Doman. I'm a resident of Durham and representing a coalition of neighbors who live around the 5 city parks contaminated with lead and other dangerous contamination. Those are East End, East Durham, Northgate, Lyon Park, and Walltown Parks. I'd like to address the $85 million Parks Bond, which includes $42 million for much needed improvements to Longmeadow and East End Parks. I have a couple of concerns, though, that I urge Council to seek out additional information about before moving forward. The project budgets that were shared at the March 2024 work session were lacking meaningful detail. The Parks Bond alone is $85 million. That's a lot of money. And community members who may be paying all of that back deserve to better understand how that money will be spent, especially with attention to safe and thorough remediation to the East End Park contamination. Here's what I understand based on the work session documents. $5.5 million is budgeted for engineering and architect fees, another $200,000 for public art, and then there's a big, vague budget category of $36 million for construction, which it's noted includes escalation and contingency. If I were deciding whether to fund this project, like Durham residents will be asked to do on election day if you all pass it, I would require much greater detail and transparency before knowing if that is the right amount and the proper planning and discussions have taken place to ensure that something as critical as the health of residents around cleaning up the lead and other contamination present in East End Park has thoroughly been discussed and planned for. It's not enough for it to be lumped into the contingency when it's something we understand very well. I believe City Council members and Parks and Rec staff members will be familiar with soil testing results for all 5 parks. And I urge you all to review this closely again if needed to do some preliminary costing and planning for what's needed. I urge Council to seek additional assurances from Parks and Recreation, and I'd like to request that Council request with immediate priority that the public has sufficient detail as to the use of the $36 million marked for construction fees and contingencies. Lead and other contamination cannot be considered contingency, given that the city is keenly aware of the existing levels of lead, arsenic, and cobalt. Contamination cleanup planning and budgeting is too important to leave for later after the bond is passed. The city can use the hundreds of pages of soil study results available now to determine if the project can be accomplished and completed within the $85 million allotted for this.
Thank you so much. All right, next I have Christine Diaz.
Yes, hello.
Hello, welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Great. Good evening, all. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Sorry. My name is Christine Diaz, and I am both a Durham resident and the Environmental Justice Coordinator with the North Carolina Conservation Network. I'm speaking today on the Parks and Recreation Bond. Part of this project, as noted, proposes to build a new swimming pool in East End Park. We also know that East End Park is one of the 5 Durham parks affected by lead and other contaminants due to the history of the site. I'd like to highlight some questions and concerns for the council. One being, how will the city ensure that residents are not impacted by the contaminated soil being disturbed making the particles airborne and increasing exposure risk. And second, in addition to this proposed investment, the city will have to fund future remediation at the East End Park in light of the contamination. Will that end up being another bond request put to voters? And how will the city ensure funds for the remediation plans to be vetted by community members at that stage of the project are delineated from the total amount earmarked for East End? I look forward to hearing more about how the city plans to manage the improvements at Longmeadow and East End, which have been a long time coming for community members, with necessary precautions to keep the community safe from exposure to contamination. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And next I have Phoebe Gooding.
Good evening. So you can all hear me, right?
Yes, welcome.
Oh,
We can hear you greatly. You have 3 minutes.
okay, great. My name is Phoebe Gooding. I want to just thank all the community folks who came out to speak tonight ahead of me on this issue and others. And just this is how we hold accountability for all of us. We bring our voices to the table, and we are all here to create a safe and healthier Durham. So I'm a resident of Durham, a parent, I'm a farmer. In addition to stewarding an organic farm in Durham, I work for Toxic Free North Carolina with a mission to advocate for policies that protect people from toxic chemicals. And so we've been organizing alongside community group members, like a couple of who spoke just before me now, advocating for the proper remediation of the 5 Durham parks that have been found to be contaminated by lead and other toxics. And so speaking on this parks bond, we know East End is one of the 5 parks affected and by these dangerous levels of lead and other contamination. And so just to break down a little bit of this North Carolina DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality report, if you don't know, according to the combination of sampling done by Duke, Mid-Atlantic, and DEQ, a quarter of the park, or 4/16 grids sampled, had elevated levels of lead. That's greater than 200 parts per million, which is the limit set by the EPA. Of these 4 grids, one also has reduced soil cover of less than 12 inches. Another 4 grids had reduced soil cover without elevated lead. And we don't know yet about the other metals in this park yet from DEQ. And just to say, according to the Mid-Atlantic report, the sample without elevated lead that was tested for other metals, which was only 1 sample, arsenic and cobalt, exceeded residential levels. This is according to the DEQ's preliminary soil remediation goals, the PSRGs. If you all haven't read any of those reports, I would suggest you do, and we can get them sent to you. So just in terms of East End and the swimming pool that is being presented, we want to make sure that the council, like was said before, clearly delineates the remediation funds that are as part of this $42 million earmarked. And we want to make sure that the council is meaningfully engaging with the community members at every stage of this project. And thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Jacqueline Wagstaff. Ms. Wagstaff, can you hear me?
I can.
Thank you. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. I wholeheartedly agree with the previous 2 speakers on some issues and some concerns about now including certain parks in this bond referendum. I'm clearly not for this bond, and I'm hoping that the voters will clearly vote this bond referendum down because, one, the items that this bond referendum was designed to cover are things that the city has a responsibility to in their maintenance budget. That's just like we pick up our trash. Those are things that are in your general obligation budget. Those are not things that when it's time to pick up trash next year, you're going to go and ask the voters to fund another bond referendum, or can you go borrow money on the taxpayer's dime? We should not be doing that. If the city was not using millions of dollars in pet projects, and there are a lot of them, and I can start naming them, using those monies to support council members' pet projects and start using those funds to take care of the general obligations of this city, meaning streets and sidewalks and parks, we would not have to float a bond. Increasing taxes is one thing, but we don't even need that at this point. But now we're floating a bond, and a bond is not you going out getting a loan that you don't have to pay back unless your name is Chris Weeks. It is you borrowing money on the taxpayer's dime, and then the taxpayers have to pay it back. The taxpayers will be responsible for paying it back at most likely a high interest at the time it comes due. And I think that we need to look into this carefully. We need to have direct out, because when this was first discussed, when we talked about wheels and all of that, it was I sat in those conversations, and it was never discussed that those obligations would be a part of a bond referendum. Now, all of a sudden, when we start talking about streets and sidewalk, we add parks into that bond referendum. That's to dupe people into believing that most people enjoy parks. I enjoy parks. I raised my kids at Long Meadow Park. Most of the kids in that area were eating lead out of that park 20 years ago. So this is not new to us. So it's not that I'm against park revitalization. I think that all the parks in Durham need some of these great revitalization like you're doing at some of these other parks in more affluent neighborhoods. But I do not believe that it should be at the expense of the residents when you're trying to dupe them into believing one thing versus another. And I believe this bond is the wrong thing at the wrong time for Durham residents and taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wagstaff. We'll now move to in-person. Those are all of my virtual speakers. First up, John Talmadge. After Mr. Talmadge will be Karthik. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Manager Page. I'm John Talmadge, resident of Durham and Executive Director of Bike Durham. I am here to share on behalf of 186 others who have signed on to a petition that was delivered to council members earlier this evening, thanking you for this budget and this bond referendum combination and the priorities that it lifts up, the continuation of fare free transit that was in the budget, and the continued investment in safe and healthy streets, which includes the sidewalk projects, it includes the street resurfacings, which provide opportunities to reallocate space, make safer crossings, make bike lanes, and taking this measure to get these projects that have been underway for a long time to the finish line as expeditiously and at the lowest cost possible, while making room for more projects to enter that pipeline so that we can continue to build a city where we can get to Vision Zero. So thank you for including these priorities in the budget that you've just adopted, the capital improvements program, and in this bond referendum. We urge you to vote to put it on the ballot this November. This is specifically for the sidewalk and streets bond referendum. And also urge you to communicate to staff the importance of being clear about the projects that will be delivered. So we have the sidewalk projects. We need to know as much as possible about which streets will be resurfaced within that 3-year period of time. I know that there's the list of streets to be paved, but also where those priorities are for the sidewalk repairs and the ADA ramps, so that we can effectively communicate that to residents and as we educate them about the benefits of this bond referendum. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. Good evening, everybody. I'm Karthik Sundaramurthy. I serve on the Recreation Advisory Commission. It's my 4th year serving with that, and I've been hearing all these plans that the Parks and Recreation has put together for the city. And it's amazing when now the City Council is adopting this bond referendum, and I wholeheartedly support that support for the bond. The City Council has, the bond referendum has items like the money set aside for addressing the lead issues that the citizens spoke about. Not only the NCDEQ is looking into it, but the city is also being proactive in taking matters and addressing those concerns and doing it in the right way. So I'm very thankful for that initiative that the Parks and Recreation has taken to do that. And the projects that are very dear to me is the Splash and Play project that's going to go in the Wheels Wheels Park, the previous Wheels Park, and also in the Long Meadow and the East End Park. So those are projects that have been in our plans in the Parks and Recs for a long time. We haven't had a bond since 1996 in the City of Durham for the Parks and Rec. So this is in our Parks and Recs celebrating its 100 years, as you announced a few, was it last month? So it kind of ties into that, saying we're investing in our parks. So I'm very thankful for that, and wholeheartedly support the bond. And just kind of going through the other projects that are in this bond, it'll address the trails, it'll address playground and access renovations, it'll address some improvements that have been, which have been pending. We go into the CIP to get these improvements done, but there's only so much every year that we can do. And so kind of taking this and really seeking a loan to get this done is very important for the citizens. And more people are moving in here, and you want to really improve their quality of life. Parks is where I meet people. This is where my kids and I spend time every day, either soccer or basketball or futsal or whatever we do. It's you see people from all ages, all walks of life come there to get fresh air, and so I really want to get your support on this bond, and we'll get the citizens up and running and get them to vote for this bond come November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, I have Julie Messina. And after Julie, I have Donna Frederick and Gregory Williams. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem, Manager Page, and council members. My name is Julie Messina. I've been a proud member of the Durham community for 15 years now. I also serve on the board of the Durham Parks Foundation, which exists to preserve, strengthen, and expand parks, trails, open space, and recreational opportunities in order to contribute to the environmental quality, economic growth, and beauty of Durham. I'm here to support the City Council to include a bond on the November ballot for funding for the Splash and Play project, which would be implemented on the site where Wheels Fun Park once operated and where the underdeveloped and underutilized Long Meadow and East End parks currently exist. The 3 questions you may have are, why parks? Why this project? And why now? First, why parks in general? According to the Trust for Public Land, parks provide enormous health benefits. They improve physical and mental health. They bolster social connections. They help combat obesity, many diseases, anxiety and depression, as well as loneliness and isolation. Parks help protect residents from the growing threat of climate disasters and other urban health effects, such as pollution and the effects of extreme heat, which we've already discussed during this meeting today. Park equity is health equity. Access to parks and green spaces offers especially strong health benefits for people with low incomes. Question 2, why this project? This bond would fund brand new amenities in underserved communities. This project would be specifically for these communities and in these communities, creating new recreation opportunities. And that brings us to the final question. Why now? As Karthik mentioned, the last bond for Durham Parks was in 1996, and that was simply for maintenance. The Splash and Play project is aiming for transformation and meaningful development in underserved areas. This project has had wider community engagement than any previous city project, with over 1,200 participants offering input at 38 community events and nearly 1,200 online surveys being completed. Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, you mentioned some of the very big problems that we face in this city right now. We're not deaf to those problems, to the very real problems. However, we must make time for the important things as much as we're dealing with the urgent matters here. Parks are an important component of the thriving ecosystem that we continue to build together, tying in with schools, access, transportation, businesses, and recreation in order to contribute to an even more livable Durham. The Durham Parks Foundation is prepared to support these efforts. In conclusion, please support the Splash and Play bond for inclusion on the November ballot and give Durham voters the opportunity to consider this amazing project for enhancing our parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, they're right there. Coming up. Gregory is sitting down.
Good evening. I'm Donna from Bragtown. Thank you very much for the hard work that the budget that was passed that went in. As you know, we've been before you many, many times, and I just came for the clarification. I know on the referendum there is $115 million for sidewalks, new and restoration. We would like clarity in Bragtown how much of that is going back to our neighborhood, because we've been on this list for about 10 years for sidewalks, and we know that it's there. But I would like some clarity, and so is the community, because we don't know where it ends and where it starts. Each project that has been with the original CIP has come short in budget. So the referendum will give us time to really pin down where and how much of sidewalk is going in Bragtown on the East Club Boulevard Road. And I've called many times to speak to a lot of people in the city, have not gotten an answer yet. So if it's too early to have fine details, we are looking for it, because the community wants to know. We've waited a long time, and this is a start, but we like to know the details. I thank you very much.
Thank you. And lastly, Mr. Williams.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, esteemed members of the City Council, and fellow community members. My name is Gregory Williams, and I'm honored to speak with you tonight. As the advocacy campaign organizer for Bike Durham, I assist with several initiatives that are aimed at improving our city's transit, pedestrian, and bike infrastructure, and ensuring equitable access for all residents. Our work includes being a voice for the Fare Free Initiative, the Safe Streets campaign, and the Vision Zero campaign. Tonight, I'm speaking on the upcoming General Obligation Bond Referendum, which includes the streets and sidewalk bonds, as well as the park and recreation bonds. At Bike Durham, we've already begun educating the community about the bond referenda, highlighting its importance for enhancing our public spaces. We've published a detailed blog post outlining the benefits, and we're actively seeking support. I'm pleased to report that several organizations have already signed on to the letter of support, including the Coalition for Affordable Housing and Transit, the Eno River Association, Carolina Federation's Durham for All chapter, Downtown Durham, Inc., Step Up Durham, and the Southside Neighborhood Association. Ensuring that these projects are delivered as rapidly as possible is crucial. We recognize and appreciate that the bond is an essential tool for achieving swift project delivery. We're looking to the city staff and city council members for additional avenues to expedite these projects. Your support and collaboration are vital in making these initiatives a reality for our community sooner rather than later. And lastly, I look forward to continuing to facilitate a strong relationship between community members and the city to make our city safer, more accessible, and more connected. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Those are all of my speakers for the evening. And at this time, I will declare this public hearing closed and back before the council. Colleagues, are there any comments? All right. Well, at this time, at this time, I will entertain a motion to adopt a bond order authorizing the issuance of $85 million general obligation parks and recreation bonds of the City of Durham, North Carolina.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. Madam Clerk, please open the vote. Please close the vote.
And the motion passes unanimously.
All right, and I'll now entertain a motion to adopt the bond order authorizing the issuance of $115 million general obligations streets and sidewalks bond of the City of Durham, North Carolina.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Madam Clerk, please open the vote. Please close the vote. We are doing this.
And the motion passes unanimously.
All right. And lastly, I'll entertain a motion to adopt a resolution setting a special bond referendum for November 5th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Madam Clerk, please open the vote. Please close it.
And the motion passes unanimously.
And it's going. All right, we're doing it. And I'm just going to ask for just a point of information. What happens now as far as mechanics of what we can talk about? How does that work? Who can talk about it? Who can't talk about it? Who can promote it? Who can't?
Well, city staff cannot advocate for these types of activities, but we can provide information to council as needed. In terms of timeline, is that what you're interested in getting more information?
Well, so I'm sure once you all get us the information, there's going to be a whole marketing campaign behind it. We can push that. You'll give us the information for us to be able to answer questions, go out to presentations. We have organizations that will also be promoting it as well. I'm sure they'll have community meetings, sessions. Pretty timeline, I guess, when would we have that information?
Not quite sure on a timeline.
And it could be ballpark.
Tim Floor, Finance Director. So we will immediately begin talking with departments to start working on that information that you need to better inform the public on this. But I think we already have a meeting scheduled pending tonight's vote, and so those discussions will begin this week. And so I anticipate getting you information expeditiously.
All right, so it looks like we have an opportunity to get sidewalks and streets repaired and get parks and save America all on the same budget. Same ballot. So you have a comment?
Yeah, I just, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to let you know that the Chambers Foundation will be playing a key role. They have stepped up to the plate, and they have helped with county bonds for schools and other county bond projects, and so they have graciously stepped up, along with the Parks Foundation, Bike Durham, and other advocacy orgs. We have members of Recreational Advisory Council, and I've asked Councilmember Rist as the liaison to BPAC. And then I think I've spoken with Councilmember Cook around, are you liaison to DOST? Okay. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I know, I was flipping, sorry. Because we have lots of boards and commissions who will be really great advocates and cheerleaders, but I just do want to shout out the Chamber and their foundation, because they're going to be taking lead on fundraising and things like getting yard signs printed and things like that. That will be their main job.
Thank you for that. Madam.
Good evening, Beverly
Director.
Thompson, Communications Director. I'm glad to hear you say that because we're going to need to put together a lot of different resources. We are meeting with the Finance Department and the Transportation as well as Parks and Rec to talk about all of the information that we'll need to be putting together and developing a communications plan based on that. And you will have fact points, just basic information that you can use when you go out and talk about the bond referendum. And we'll be putting together other kinds of activities to communicate to the public. And as soon as we can let you know that, we will. We're going to be meeting, as I said, later this week to put together the plan, start putting together the plan.
All right. So keep in mind, if you're interested in this, you know, our parks, sidewalks, and Saving America on the ballot in November.
I'm listening.
Not being partisan, I'm just stating for the record, Durham, get out and vote on this ballot. All right, well, wow, this might be historic. So just in closing, we will have another special guest in Durham tomorrow. Keep your eyes on the news. Like I said, we're going to be bringing Washington to Durham a lot. So we have two special guests coming tomorrow, and I look forward to greeting them and spending time with them throughout the day. But during the day tomorrow, I don't know who up here is going. Anyone going to Richmond? 1, 2. All right, so going to take an infrastructure trip and a parks trip to Richmond, Virginia in the morning. Really excited about that.
You're coming, right?
I will drive separately. I have to get back for the White House visit. So, all right. With that being said, at 9:19, we are adjourned. Wow.